This plugin will make your samples go from sounding like this to sounding like this. Man, I'm excited. This is our brand new plugin called Memory, and we've been developing it for over a year now. The magic from this plugin actually comes from random pitch modulation combined with some special controls, as well as a very unique low pass filter that gives any sound a ton of emotion. So let's take the stock FL piano that sounds like this. So now let's add memory to get that distant dreamlike feel. You can just hear those little imperfections that this plugin adds. So let's talk about what this thing actually does. Under the hood, the inspiration actually comes from a legendary guitar pedal called Shallow Water. This pedal's been an industry secret for sample makers for quite a while now. But one of the problems is that it's not necessarily the most convenient to use, not to mention it's over $300. We really liked the way this thing made your sample sound, but we actually wanted to add some upgrades to it. So after a year of reverse engineering this thing and adding a bunch of our own upgrades, we ended up with Memory. So the first three things you should mess around with this plugin is the depth, the rate, and the smooth. So as I mentioned before, the random pitch modulation is really what makes this plugin special. So the random line that's going crazy in this little window actually represents the random pitch modulation that Memory is doing. It's similar to like a tape warbling out of key, but the thing is there's no predefined patterns for how it changes, meaning every time you play a sound, it's different. It's 100% random, meaning every time you use this plugin, you get slightly different outcomes. And honestly, that's what makes this thing special. It's like a bunch of happy accents happening all the time. So the first knob is the depth, okay? And the depth is gonna say how far can the random happen. So if we put this thing, let's just say at 0, there's gonna be no change in pitch. So even if I play sounds, nothing's gonna happen, because the depth is 0, it's staying the same. But if I raise it up to, let's say 100%, it's gonna have a wide variety of stuff that can keep happening with it. And as you can see just from the visual, it's going crazy all over the place. Sounds bad, but it shows you exactly kind of what's happening. The secret here is to find different sweet spots that the depth can sound really good. Okay, next up is the rate. So if the depth is how far up and down the pitch modulation can happen, the rate is how often does this happen. If you wanted to only do the pitch modulation every once in a while, you want to have a really low rate. But if you want it to be chaotic nonstop, like I just showed you, you put the rate up to 100%. I think personally the sweet spot is about 3 to 12%, but honestly you can find so many cool outcomes just by tweaking this. So let me put it down to 10%. You can hear it happening, right? It's not super often. If I put even lower, it'll be more natural most of the time. And I'm gonna move the depth maybe to like 50%. So if you want those pitch modulations to happen less often, you turn down the rate. If you want it more often, you turn it up. I definitely suggest playing with both of those knobs, the depth and the rate, at different places, because you can get really cool effects. Whether you want to do a high rate and a low depth is a completely different sound than all the different places you can land with it. Next up is the smooth effect. So the smooth effect is going to take it, and instead of a jarring like pitch jump, right, as it's randomly doing, it's kind of jumping up and down, it'll smooth it out. So it gives it a more natural feel, and it'll help it just sound a little bit better. I personally think it always sounds good with about 20 to 30% instead of being so jarring. So it'll smoothly go up and down. So as you can see, that line is now smoothly jumping up and down to hit those different pitch changes. Usually you need a little bit of this, otherwise it's kind of jarring, but to be honest with you, as our team was using this, there's all different sorts of combination that create cool stuff. Next, let's talk about the filter, because that really defies the signature sound of this plugin. So it's a gated low pass filter, meaning the more signal that is driven into the plugin, it'll change how the filter opens up with that sound. So I'm gonna pull up Serum real quick to give you a visual example. So if I quickly apply the envelope to the filter, you can see how it's like opening up to the sound every time I play it, but instead of R's being triggered when you play the sound, it's triggered when the signal comes in, and that filter is opening up. It gives Memory a lot of character. So let me play with the filter knobs for a second. We also added in a noise that only plays when the signal's driving in, because in the original Bucket Brigade chip that's actually in these things, there's naturally a noise to it. That's what gives a lot of that old school hardware, the pedals, that sound it has, that little slight hiss. But the beautiful part about a plugin is that we can actually remove it if we want to. So I'm gonna add a little bit of noise to this sample. And you can kind of hear as the sample, stops playing in different parts, the noise goes away and the filter goes away as well. And that's really cool to just hear that open up on the sound. Another really cool upgrade is that this thing only runs in mono. So we decided to provide a double button, a stereo button, to essentially give you double the signal. And you can get a lot more fullness in your sounds as well. Let me show you. And as you can see, both those signals are also randomly modulating, meaning they're not just copying each other, they're actually two completely different modulations happening. All right, so lastly, we have the in, out, and mix to really dial in your sound. I personally think if you want the memory sound, you want to keep it about 80 to 100% on the mix, but honestly, if you pull it down to about 50%, it turns into an amazing chorus that adds this unique warmth to every sound you put on it. So I'm gonna play the sound at 100% mix, and I'm gonna pull it all the way down to 0 so you can hear the differences. This is that chorus range. Then we get into that memory, that really signature memory sound. Honestly, you're gonna have a lot of fun messing around with this plugin. You can get a lot of unique textures and feelings out of this thing, and I think it's gonna add a lot. One small suggestion, I think it works better on simpler sounds. Let's say instead of using it, let's say on a full melody or a full melody loop, what you can do is you can use it on an individual layer, just the chords, just the lead, and I think you can get a lot of great use cases when the sounds are a little bit simpler. Other than that, I can't wait to hear what you guys make. I know this plugin is gonna be amazing, and the best part is it's 100% for free. You're not gonna have to pay hundreds of dollars like you would have to recreate it with hardware. We're really excited about this thing, and we think we've added a lot of upgrades to make it even better than some of the other hardware that does stuff similar to this. Anyways, you can check out the link in the description to get this thing 100% for free, and I really hope you enjoy this plugin. Our team's put a lot of hard work into it. Peace.